So it was just about midnight, going into November 3rd, Sunday morning, when we broke my waters, and then sure enough, the head started to slowly move down, slowly crown. I know a lot of times after people's water is broken, their contractions get more intense, but that wasn't the case for me. I think because I was already at that point, I mean, you know, his head was like already emerging. So I think my body was already kind of maxed out. With Alice's birth, I had a lot of numbness, even though I didn't have any pain meds whatsoever. I just had a lot of numbness, and I never felt the sort of ring of fire sensation. But with this birth, I did. I felt that burning sensation, you know, as he was crowning. But for me, it didn't really feel that bad. Based on other people's stories, I had expected it to be this crazy sensation that I just couldn't cope with. But for me, it really wasn't that bad, maybe just because I was so happy to finally be at that point. Where I knew, you know, there was no going back. Like I knew his head was coming out and this was happening and I was going to meet my baby. So sure enough, his head came out and he had a nuchal hand. His right hand was up on the left side of his head. So he came out, his head came out at the same time as one hand. From that point, you know, one more push and the rest of his body was out, and I was just in bliss. I didn't feel anything else. Everything was completely perfect from that point on. So that was it. He was born at 12:42 a.m. He was 7 pounds 8 ounces and 21 inches long. His APGARs were 8 and 9. I didn't have any profound first words. With Alice's birth, I think I just kept saying, "She's so sweet," over and over and over again, like on a loop. And this time, I think I just kept saying, "Oh my baby," over and over and over again, something like that. It took 15 minutes before either of us thought to check and see if it was a boy or girl. I knew as soon as I saw his face that he was a boy. Like, I didn't even need to check. It just didn't cross my mind. I just knew it. I had had that feeling all along. We both had. And like I said, as soon as I saw his face, I just knew it. But anyways, 15 minutes down the road, we checked and saw that he in fact was a boy. So during this time, my uterus was not contracting at all. It basically just stopped like as soon as he was out. We tried nursing. He latched right away and started nursing, but my uterus was still not contracting. I honestly cannot remember if the placenta was already delivered at this point or not, but my midwives noticed that I was bleeding more than I should be. So again, they were trying to get my uterus to contract more on its own, and it just wasn't doing it. So they gave me a shot of Pitocin in my thigh. That did nothing, didn't stop, it didn't slow the bleeding down at all. So I got another one in the other thigh, and then the bleeding slowed. I felt like that was a situation that, like in retrospect, probably could have been potentially serious, but they just dealt with it like so efficiently and so calmly that it didn't alarm me. You know, we didn't feel like things were out of control in any way. So from what I remember, the Pitocin helped stop the bleeding, and then it also helped, you know, stimulate the contractions to deliver the placenta. I did have a tear where his hand came out, like on the side that his hand was. I didn't need any stitches, but I did have a tear on one side and then like a tiny, like basically like a skid mark on the other side. So when the placenta was out, I got to look at it and see, my midwife was really impressed. She said it was super healthy looking. At 40 weeks and 3 days, there were absolutely no calcifications. Basically, my whole after-birth experience was absolutely ideal. Like everything, it went exactly the way we would want it to, with skin to skin and delayed cord clamping. And it was just a completely like peaceful, wonderful, perfect entrance into the world, I think, for August. And just wonderful, like early hours for us as a family, just with me and Mike and him. This morning, that was the time change. So we got an extra hour of this nesting in, this wonderful time. I took a shower. I was really shaky, but then I ate a bunch. My midwives cleaned everything up and left around 4:30 in the morning, just as the sky was starting to lighten. It was really beautiful. I blew out my candle and just kind of like said a prayer of thanks. We came back to our house, and we all slept together until Alice got up around 6:30 and got to meet her brother. And our life continued, but like crazy and more wonderful than before, you know? All right, Alice is home, so I need to wrap up now. But overall, I think I had the best possible experience. Totally happy with the decisions that we made, with the environment, with the support that I had, just overall, like all the conditions. I really think it was the best possible experience. I did want a water birth, but it wasn't in the cards, and I'm totally okay with that. I would 100% have a home birth again. I think it's kind of amazing how similar a lot of things were to Alice's labor and birth, despite how different the environment was. I think they say on average that your second birth is around half of the time of your first, and that was pretty true in my case with Alice. Like all of labor together with her was 49 hours, and this time around was 20 hours. For really super active labor, with Alice was around 12 hours, and this time it was closer to 8. And with Alice, I pushed for 6 hours, and with August, I only pushed for 2. So that was a definite improvement. It was definitely a little bit more intense because of the shortened time frame. For the first, say, 4 days after he was born, I had the feeling like I don't need to do that again. Like I felt like I had the optimal experience, I had the best possible situation I could have had, and just didn't really feel like I needed to go through that again in my life. But since then, after like by the 5th day, I totally want a dozen kids again. I would do it again in a heartbeat, no problem. The one thing I am a little bit disappointed about is that we don't have any video of the birth itself. We did video during labor, and like I said, because we expected things to go a lot faster than they did, we expected him to be born a full 2 hours before he actually was. I ran out of memory. I switched my memory card and I still ran out. So we don't have the actual birth on tape, which I really would have loved to have for myself, but I just have no choice but to just let that go. I will probably share a little clip of my labor with him, just as I did with Alice's labor. It's just something I would like to do personally to help demystify home birth and maybe help empower other women who are considering not using pain medications. So that is pretty much everything, and we have our happiest of endings, our little rainbow baby. Thanks for all the support along the way. See you soon.